Hi, my name is Jorge Urrea, and this is a story about how I overcame street life, gang life, victim of a shooting, to working with NASA and now owning my own business. My grandma raised myself and my older sister, who's 4 years older than me. My dad, he was a career heroin addict. During my childhood, he was incarcerated for about 12 to 14 years. The most I got from him was like false promises and letters and stuff like that. When I was 9, my mom, she came back into the picture. She met some guy that ended up being my stepdad. His name was Skip. Around the age of 10, she told me that she was going to divorce him. He was pretty much filling the shoes of a dad. I felt like a very influential person in my life was being taken away, and I had no control. So the only thing that I thought of was the easiest way was to continuously threaten my mom that I was going to kill myself. I just didn't want to be alone with my mom, I guess, because I knew the troubles that she had. Eventually, my mom got tired of hearing me tell her that, and one day she suggested we go talk to a therapist, and I found myself in a counselor's office. Right away, they suggested that they'd show me the way to the cafeteria. I was done eating and I was thinking like, where's my mom at? I found my way back to the counselor's office, and only the counselor was sitting there. She gave me the pat on the back like, oh, well, we have some stuff to work on with you and you're going to be staying here. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I literally felt like I got abandoned again. I just went crazy. And from that point, they called what's called a code green. Code green means all the staff from other departments, which is the adolescent department and adult department, they come and they restrain you. And they pretty much grabbed me and put me in a room. And it wasn't a padded room, but it was just a bed in the room, a punching bag, and the bed had a tarp wrapped around it. And they laid me on there. And that was the first time I got like 5-point restrained. So they put leather restraints on my wrists, on my head, waist, and feet. And the routine was you were to be in there for 4 hours until either you sleep it off or you just calm down. So that was my first day of being at Charter Oak Hospital. And I ended up being there for about 9 months. My mom didn't see me until 6 months after. I think because of insurance issues, I was sent to another facility. When I was at that facility, the strangest thing happened. I was walking to school or something in the morning and I heard someone call my name. And I turned around and it was Skip. It was my stepdad. He was in the adult side. It was kind of like comfort for me that he was there, and I started being good. And I ended up being like a mentor for the new kids. I think I was almost in the facility, in that whole program for almost 2 years. It was only a matter of time until things started getting a little dark. My mom, she battled severe depression and alcoholism. And, going into high school, I started hanging out with my friends, and their brothers ended up being from the neighborhood. And sooner or later, I found myself getting jumped into the neighborhood on Easter Sunday. After that day, I became a big bad gangster. First time that I was introduced to adult jail was shortly after the age of 18. I had a couple warrants that I didn't take care of. And so because I didn't want to pay the fine and I didn't have money to pay the fine, I opted to go to jail. Honestly, it wasn't that bad at that age. And I was just liked by a lot of people. A lot of them were my own homeboys from my neighborhood. After doing a couple month stretches in the county jails, one thing led to another. And me and my brother were on our way to Las Vegas one time. And in the city of Baker, me and my brother were victims of a violent crime, and we both got shot. I got shot 5 times. He got shot once, and he passed away instantly. There was times when my mom would tell me, "Mijo, there's always going to be someone bigger and badder than you out there." And I just could not believe that. There's definitely someone bigger and badder than me, and it was just proven. I just waited, and then finally I heard the helicopter overhead. In order for a helicopter to land on the property of a gas station, they have to shut off the whole gas station. The owner of that gas station was refusing to shut everything down because it was a Saturday night and people were just flooding that area. My whole left side was shattered. My ankle was shattered. My femur was shattered. My forearm was shattered. And I got shot twice in my stomach. So when those limbs were moved, it's almost like it would bring me back to life because of the pain. What made me realize that I was about to die was the propeller was going slow motion and I could not hear anything. It was just silence. Finally, the helicopter landed at the hospital in the trauma center. I was in the hospital a total of I think it was 5 weeks. I found myself back at home with my mom. Once again, I battled mental health issues. One day I got into an argument with my mom, and during the argument, my mom's husband lunged at me to try to hit me. That was just very disrespectful to me. And in this instant, I ran over my mom's husband, and I wanted to prove to him how, even though I'm disabled, I could still take his life. Luckily, I didn't kill him, but now I found myself on the run for attempted murder. A month later, I get a phone call from a detective and he's asking me questions regarding that incident. I literally did not remember what he was talking about. A couple weeks after that, I found myself at gunpoint with the SWAT team in my house. I had my 5-year-old daughter. She was sleeping on my shoulder, and I walked out of the room and the whole family was face down. And I still was like, man, you guys are tripping. That wasn't me. And they're like, do you know a guy named Joseph Lopez? And when they said that name, all reality hit. All this trouble that I was through from 18 to 24 that I ignored, all that stuff accumulated and got me in court. And my whole family was pretty much on the stand against me because they were scared of me. And so now I find myself coming into the dorm after one day at court, and I run into this African-American guy. He comes out of his bunk and he stops me. He's like, hey man, I want to talk to you. I looked at him like, man, I'm about to beat someone up. You don't want to talk to me. In the correctional facility, there's the racial lines are very thick. He's like, I know you're going through your injuries. I know you're going through some hard times and you're ready to give up. He's like, but I have a message from you, and this message is from God. He's like, I'm a prophet. And he just was bringing up things that nobody would ever know other than me. There's a purpose for you here. And he's like, and if you ignore that and you ignore my message to you, he said, God will pluck one of your kids in order for you to realize that he's in control. So I go back to my bunk and I'm kind of talking to my friend that was living upstairs above the bunk from me. And I told him, hey, did you see me talking to that guy? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what do you mean? I was just talking to this guy for 2 hours. And he's like, what? He's like, no, you weren't. And I said, he's right there. And I pointed at his bunk, and his whole bed was cleared out. There was nobody ever living there. It was something I couldn't believe. So I called my kids. I was crying on the phone. After all that, I ended up getting sentenced to 22 months. And I have no other belief than someone who's looking out for me. So after getting out of jail, now I found myself still with the record because God didn't erase that bad boy, and therefore I couldn't get a job. So because I had pride at the time, and because I didn't want to ask my mom if I could stay in her room that she's renting, I decided to just go homeless. So I was homeless for 4 months. I feel like because I wasn't a drug addict and because I wasn't addicted to alcohol, I had a clear mind. I just wasn't sure where to go. And I reached out to a coworker's husband who is an amazing lawyer. And he said, you know what, you have to file for an expungement. And he's like, I can help you do it. And it's going to be about $3,800. And I said, well, check this out, man. I said, I'm homeless right now. I have a food stamp card with $28 on it in my pocket. What is another option? He's like, all right, this is going to take some work, but if you're serious about it, you'll do it. And I tried it and it worked. And there's a portion in the packet where it asks you to explain to the judge if the expungement is granted, how that's going to affect you in a positive way. I ended up writing an 8-page letter to this guy and just telling him how I'm just done doing bad stuff. I just need help getting a job. 3 months later, I got a letter back from him and he granted the expungement in all counties. I ended up getting a job at Time Warner. I was a field installer. I ended up excelling in that job. And then I met my girl. Her mom took a liking to me and realized how much of a hard worker I am, And so because I didn't work for so long, the insurance and the back child support and the current child support and this and that. And my girl's mom saw that. She was a HR manager for a contractor for NASA. She hooked up my resume and I found myself in an interview with NASA. I was one applicant out of 12. My biggest fear was that these people were going to see my tattoos. If I came home and I told my girl, like, I didn't get that job for sure, they were kind of like in shock when I walked in the room. Sure enough, later on that day, I get a phone call. Hey, you ready for a second interview? After that second interview, I got a call back from the recruiter, and he's just like, how do you feel about this pay? And I was just flabbergasted, like, I'm good with that, and knowing that that's the most I ever got paid in my life, or that's the most ever offered to me. I just felt like someone was looking after me. It's unheard of for a gang member from the city of Almani who's been shot and who's been in jail for running over his mom's husband and like all that craziness. And now I find myself employed by NASA. Like, I don't even have a high school diploma. I stayed with NASA for almost 9 years. I actually feel good sharing my stories because I really believe that since my story is so real, I think people are seeing that now. People are really seeing that not only am I talking about it, like I've been about it. Sometimes if you try to save the world, like it's too much for you and you end up giving up. But if you save one person at a time, like it's doable. Today, I find myself doing a bunch of positive stuff. I just started working with the Congresswoman Grace Napolitano and Dr. Guzman, who is the chief of the Department of Health of LA County. We're going to start a school tour, and that school tour is going to consist of me speaking for about 40 minutes regarding motivation and my specialty that I feel is mental health. The goal is to reach 87 schools throughout LA County. My food catering business, Pushing Fruits LA. Along with that, I gonna start a food cooking podcast. I'm very excited to tap into cook with people that are suffering. And I really think that cooking is therapy. All these opportunities are coming my way because these youngsters need someone to look at, and that's me. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm really grateful for everybody that takes the time to listen to what I have to say. And don't make the mistakes that I have because, not everybody is as blessed as me and as lucky as me. So by waiting for something such tragedy to happen to change, sometimes it's too late and you won't make it. Just start working on being a better person today, as I will with you, and we'll be better people together.